Hi everyone, it's great to see you. Today is Coleus planting day. This is very exciting because this begins the seed starting that I will be doing. Now I have to preface this with the fact that I have never grown Coleus from seed before. So a lot of what I'm going to be showing you today, I have learned on Jim's Holiest of Coleus YouTube channel, and Jim is truly a Coleus expert. So I will link his channel below, and if you are a real Coleus person, you should check him out. So hopefully I will do this correctly. I'm going to use Jim's method of using Jiffy pot starters. So these you order, I got mine on Amazon. It was a sale. You got 2 trays of 72 little tiny peat pots here. So let me show you what this looks like once I opened it up. The plastic part is going to turn over to be the nice top for this tray here to keep the moisture in. So I'm going to put that to the side. And then it also comes with Super Thrive plant vitamins for seedlings. I'm not going to use this. Your Coleus just need regular water in the peat pot. You'll be fine. They also come with a bunch of little plastic name tags here. I already wrote on mine, and the plastic ones are really good. You want to use these as opposed to using wooden little tags. The wooden tags will absorb some of the water, and you don't want to take any of that water away from your little peat pots. So you want little plastic name tags here for the types of seeds you will be planting. And then in the bottom, we have 72 little peat pot pellets. So these are really skinny, little hard, hockey puck-like peat pots. And you'll notice one side is covered with this white netting. The other side has an imprinted 2 little circles here. You have to make sure, sometimes in the shipping, these get flipped over. Make sure that the one with the little circles on top is facing up and that they all have their little divots here. So the first thing you have to do is you have to reconstitute this, this planting medium here. You can't plant directly into these hard little pieces. We have to add water. In the directions that come with this, it says add about 1 inch to 1.5 inches of water and let it absorb. Jim recommends about 10 cups. He says does that. So all my large watering cans are outside in the shed. So I measured 10 cups and put it in my tea kettle. Now, don't get the idea that I boiled this water. You don't want to put boiled water on here. This is just warm tap water, and I know my teapot pours nicely, so that this would work well. And all I'm going to do is, I'm not going to put all 10 cups in right away. I'm just going to go back and forth, add maybe about half of that. They start to float a little bit, and we're just going to let them sit, and they'll start to poof. And I'll be back once they've poofed up a little bit. So that was about 3 minutes, and we have absorbed all the water that I put in so far. You can tell that some are taller than others, but they're starting to poof up. So I'm going to add the rest of the 10 cups now and let it absorb the next part. And I'm going to really make sure that any that still look really flat, I'm going to make sure that they get water on top of them. That looks good. We want them poofed up and damp. We don't want them like super saturated and soggy, and you don't want any water really just sitting in the bottom. So these little pellets will just absorb it, and then that dampness should be enough. So it took about 9 minutes for these pods to absorb all the water. They look nice and damp. There are a few that are considerably shorter than the others. So I'm going to assume that those didn't absorb quite as much water. And I have my trusty pressure sprayer here. If that happens, you can just add like a little squirt to the ones that you think might need a little extra. But really, I think these are pretty well set to go. Now that means that in my tea kettle, which had the 10 cups of water, there's still about 1 cup left in here. So I probably only used about 9 cups. That's fine. Go until you feel like you have enough water in here. Remember, you can always add a bit more if you need to later. So you'd rather have them on the slightly not enough water side than just so saturated that it's too wet, because it's hard to take the water back once it's in the tray here. But these look really good. So you'll notice that as they got wet, the little netting, this white part here that's around it, sort of starts to spread out, and you can just see the peat in the top. So you sort of have to, I have my plastic forks here, you can use your fingers too. You sort of have to spread that netting back. You don't want to take the netting off, because that's making the nice little pot part to keep your peat all together here. But you want to make sure that you have planting space in the top. So I'm going to take my two little forks, and I'm just going to sort of break that back a little bit. Make sure I have plenty of, I feel like I'm dining here on my peat moss. No, but this is just fine. Most of them are pretty well, and I'm loosening the peat too, so that it'll be all set for me to pop the seeds right in the top here. And you might notice that one or two of these are a little drier than others as you do this part. And it's fine to go ahead, add a teaspoon or two of water to the ones that you feel like aren't quite saturated enough. And this doesn't have to be a real careful thing that you're doing. They are really looking good here though. I feel like we're, well, and I don't know what happened to this, but we'll just take that out. Look like part of the top came off. So you can get these jiffy little pods at a lot of your local garden nurseries. You can get them at big box stores. You can order them online. These are really easy to work with. The nice thing is you can use the tray on the bottom from year to year, and you can buy replacement little pods to put in here next year. So I will probably do that. Just keep this tray, add the replacement pods. Sometimes the replacement pods are like a slightly different size. They should still fit in the little cutouts in the bottom though, but you might have to adjust the amount of water that you're adding to get the pods moist if you're doing the replacement kinds. You can also get trays like this, I believe in a 50 count. So this is the 72 count. I believe that's the biggest that you can get. It just depends on how many seeds you're really planning to start. I was having a moment of being very ambitious and figured definitely go with these 72s. So this seems like we're just about there. Okay. Sometimes you'll notice that those in the corners dry out faster too, or along the edges. So you want to just keep an eye on the moisture. I'm noticing that over here, it looks a little drier. So one thing, as I added the water here, our house or this table must be on a slant because everything's sort of tipped this way. These are a little drier than this side, so I'm going to give them just a little extra here. Okay, they look good. We are ready to start planting. So coleus seeds are super, super tiny. They look a lot like sesame seeds, and they're hard to keep track of. So I have a bunch of different coleus types here that I'm going to be planting. The first type that I have, I harvested myself, these seeds from the garden. I plant these, I call them neon green. They come from a local nursery. I've never seen them anywhere except at that local nursery. Honestly don't know if that's the real name of them or not, but I love them. So I harvested some, and you can tell that here are the stalks. I went, and after they were very dry, I just sort of wiggled them between my fingers. The seeds and the chaff fall off. It's very difficult to separate them. So they're the ones that look the roundest and the darkest, and I'll pick some of those out. I also have some other kinds here. The other kinds of coleus I'm going to be planting, I have one packet of seeds I got from Park Seed. These are giant Exhibition Limelight. They have big lime colored leaves, so I'm excited about those. There's only 20 seeds in here, so 20 plants. I say only 20. 20 coleus plants are pretty good. And usually they really do have a good germination rate. And then I ordered from Jim's Holiest of Coleus. He also sells his seeds, and he sent a bunch of seeds. And so I have some other kinds, Fishnet, Empire Kong, Kong Red. Kong are those coleus with the really big leaves. I grew Kong Rose last year. Those were really nice. Jitters. And I have made my name tags out here. So let's start with the giant Exhibition Limelight. I'm just going to put my little sign over here, and I tend to plant going this way. Now, in order to see these, I'm going to put them on a white paper plate, also an idea stolen from Jim. So Jim is not a sponsor, by the way. I just really enjoy his YouTube channel, and I've learned a lot, so I want to share that with you. As are, you know, the Jiffy Pots are not sponsored, none of these. I'm just sharing how I'm doing this with all of you. So let's open up the giant Exhibition Limelight. Oh, they're in a little tiny envelope. These seeds are so small. Oh my goodness. I might have to get my reading glasses out. Okay. Here we go. Oop. There's still more in there. Come on. Okay. Each one of these is precious. We do not want to lose them. So hopefully you can see here these tiny, tiny little seeds. Oh my goodness. Now, the coleus seeds are interesting because you don't really plant them and dig them into the earth. They need sunlight in order to germinate. So we're just going to place them very, very carefully on top here. I have a wet paper towel. I'm going to get my finger a little damp, and I can just pick one up and pop it in. And it's no longer on my finger, so I assume it is in the Jiffy Pod now. Now, I can do this for about 4 or 5 seeds per Jiffy Pot here, and then I can, once they've germinated, separate them out. So I'm gonna try that. Make sure that's dirt and not any seeds, yeah. It's very delicate work. I have seen some people use a toothpick to do this too. Get your toothpick wet. I have seen some people use a spoon to pick them up with. I'm gonna try the toothpick here. I don't know if mine's wet enough. I think I just had one fall on the floor. Oh well, okay. And the tricky thing is then you also have to sort of keep track of how many you've put in each one. I'm sort of putting them in quadrants here so that hopefully it will be easier to split them up once they have germinated. Okay, looking good. My goodness, they are so small. It's like I hope I'm planting them. We will see when the plants sprout or not. That tray, that bunch of seeds is planted. So this whole row hopefully will be my giant Exhibition Limelight. They look good to me, and now we will go on to the next row here and try a different variety. The next variety I am going to do are the Fishnets. So these are a really interesting kind of coleus. I have only seen these sold by Jim, and they're green. I'll try to put a picture up. They're green with like what fishnet stockings look like, a deep sort of purple veining in them. I think they'll be really unique. Oh my goodness. Once again, these tiny, tiny little guys. I feel like if I breathe wrong, I'm gonna like blow them across the room. Okay, I'm gonna turn this inside out. The seeds are out of the bag. There they are on the plate. My. Okay. It's a little nerve-wracking. I'm back with a more damp paper towel here. I have my fishnet seeds. I'm gonna get my toothpick really damp. These I think are even tinier than the others, and I'm gonna see if I can, look at that, it sticks right to it, perfect. And then I can place it in. Okay, this is the new method that I'm trying, we'll see. There we go. The tough thing is I put it down, it seems to get some dirt on my toothpick. I want to make sure that the seed is really coming off. Yep. There we go. So 4 in that one. And then this is going to be a lot of coleus. So if I have 72 little pods here and I'm doing 4 seeds a pod, what is that, like 288 plants, something like that? That's a lot of coleus plants. I have never purchased that many at a store. So I might be giving my mom and neighbors extra coleus plants, hopefully, if I have done a good job and have a good rate of germination here. And usually they germinate within a week. So we just keep a real careful eye on them. Okay. And then later we can split these into larger growing containers. It takes about 8 weeks for coleus to be ready to go outside, which is really perfect because here we are beginning of March, and in May I will want these to be able to be transferred outside. One thing to keep in mind is that the coleus is not a pet-friendly plant, so they are toxic. I know, at least to cats. We're getting some kittens, and so I am thinking that this will probably be either the first and last time I grow them inside, or I'll have to move my grow lights downstairs to the basement where the cats cannot get to them. So do keep that in mind as you're choosing what seeds you're gonna grow. It's really easy now just to Google and find out what things are safe for your pets. Okay, I have a row of fishnets here, and I need to put my marker on them because as much as I would like to think I'll remember that's the fishnet row, I probably will forget. There we go, fishnets are done. Let's move on now to jitters. I think I'll put my sign in first. Okay, so jitters are also from Jim, and jitters look a lot like pink poodle coleus that I grew last year. They're not quite as pink, but they have green on the outside, a little pink in the middle, and kind of a delicate leaf. And I really like that shape. That did really well for me. So these are definitely some that I am excited to grow. And once again, so I've moved on to a different plate. I'm doing a clean plate each time just because I'm getting dirt on them as I go. I'm going to carefully dump them out. Okay, turn that inside out. There are a lot of seeds in here when you think each of these tiny little seeds is going to make a plant. Now last year was the first year that I ended up planting coleus in the ground along with in my pots. So I had done some in pots before, and I knew that that worked really well for me. But last year I put some directly in the ground, and they did great in the ground. I found that I could just walk by. This is the nice thing about having them in the ground. And I like a real bushy looking plant, and you just break off the top of each little branch and you could stick it right in the ground next to the mama plant, and it would root and you'd get a whole nother plant growing right there. And I did this multiple times. It was awesome. By the end of the year, I had a ton of coleus plants. Of course, you can do that with pots too, but when you're just putting them in the ground, there's just so many places you can always add another coleus in. Worked very, very well. And you know, coleus are one of those plants too that I really feel like they come into their prime in the August, September range, and some other things are starting to slow down in your garden. So by having all of these plants, I'm really ensuring that I'll have some fall interest in my planters. When it came to the pot in the pot method, I actually took out some of my bags that were in the pot and replaced them with bags full of coleus. And they did terrific. So I've been working here planting. I did 3 rows of jitters, and now I've done 2 rows, almost 2 rows of the Empire Kong. It is really hard to keep track of where you've been. That's what I'm finding. Like, you can't see the seeds that you put in, so you just sort of, you know, these markers help, but you gotta sort of focus. So I still have some seeds here. I'm like, oh, I've planted so many of these. So I am just going to sort of funnel them, and we're just gonna see, I'm just gonna shake them in a few here that are left in the row. Now, if you overseed, it's not the end of the world. So maybe I got 8 seeds in one of those. I will have to thin them out then. But that's okay. I'm quickly learning that I have a lot of seeds, and these seeds are so tiny. Like, this is a really tedious process. I'm kind of glad that the other seeds that I'll be starting in a couple weeks are not this small, thank goodness. Those I'll probably put like 2 in a pod, and that will be fine. These are really, really, really tiny. So I'm gonna move on now to the neon green. We did 2 rows of that. Here we go, and back to work. Whew. So we have a row of neon green, and now we're going to do the Kong red. Here we go. I'm going to say that that is the like official row, and then there's the method of, okay, any others want to get planted? Jump off the plate. It'll be very interesting to see the germination rate of those that were carefully placed and those that were not. Okay, we have one more. This is the surprise mix. Everybody likes a surprise. Okay, so for the 2 last rows here, we'll see how they do. Now, if I don't end up with everything germinating, that's okay. You can go back into your empty pots and you can add some more seeds in there. So I actually have a couple more kinds of coleus that I purchased from Jim that if I have any that don't take, I'm just going to use that. Now, I'm not covering them with soil, but I am just going to take and press the tops down just a little bit so that they're sort of nestled in here. I can't even see where the seeds would be, so we're just patting the whole area, and they feel nice and moist. If as you're doing this, you find any pods that you're like, it needs a little more water, you give it a little more water. Remember that this isn't set in stone, so just like the directions said, fill it up about 1 inch, 1.5 inches. We use about 10 cups of water. I used about 9, but then I added a little more to some. There's a lot of play in here. You have to use your gardening wisdom to get the best results possible. Okay, these look really good. I'll wipe my hands off. Now, they are planted. They are, they are planted. Let me try one more time. These look really good. They are planted, they are watered, and now we're going to put the dome on top, making our own little terrarium here, and this will keep the water in. You still do need to check, lift this off once a day, make sure you don't need to add any water. Along with light, these also like to be nice and toasty warm while they germinate. Not too toasty, we're not baking them, but they like to be around 70 degrees. So I have some warming mats set up and I have my grow lights. Let's go get these baby coleus settled. This is so exciting. So, whoops, as I pop the lid off, I'm going to put this right on top of my heating mat. This particular heating mat, I've ordered a few different types. This one I think came from Gardener's Supply. I've ordered some from Amazon. They just plug in and they really don't get super warm, just warm. I'm having trouble with the lid, you can tell. Okay, hold it. we're good. They just keep it warm enough to keep it up to that 70-ish degrees, you know, a little extra warmth for the germinating process. Once I see plants, little growth in each of these, then I turn off the heat underneath. So when you turn the grow lights on, woohoo, there they are. Now, because they like light, I'm going to be leaving my grow lights on 24 hours a day until they have all sprouted. And then after a little bit, and I'll walk you through when I do that, I will cut it back so that it's more like they have an 8-hour rest at night. But for now, these babies are just gonna stay on. These particular grow lights are from Gardener's Supply. You can see a video link down below. Once again, not sponsored, but they do have a full spectrum range of all the UV lights that they need. You want to make sure you're using your grow lights with that full spectrum in them. And once again, they're the LED, they're very low energy, they're super energy efficient, so keeping them on 24 hours a day is absolutely fine. Whew, that was a lot of planting. I don't know if I'm cut out for the planting part. I think I like going to the nursery and buying them already growing. But this will be an adventure. So thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you in the next video.